This is Dawn Must Follow Night by Hunter Danson. Part 1, Chapter 10. Read by the author. When he awoke, Yarick thought he had been thrown into the black. His flesh felt like it was being burrowed into by 1,000 tiny beetles, and from the pain in his bowels, Yarick guessed someone had stuck a hand down his throat and tried to turn his intestines inside out. When he opened his mouth to scream, the only sound that came out was a weak croak. Drink. A large hand tilted his head back and poured water down it. Yarick peered through blurry vision to see who the hand belonged to. A massive square face, covered by a thick black beard, drifted in front of him. Maria, Yarick managed. Go back to sleep, Yarick. You need rest. Yarick felt something stab his arm, and then darkness. For the next few moons, Yarick's existence repeated the same pattern. Wake up, drink water, marvel at the pain, struggle to pass food, sink into unconsciousness. All of his delirious questions about Maria were deflected or ignored, even by Kavar. All they said was the blast had disintegrated the outer gate, and there was a building team on its way from Dindra. As for his injuries, Yarick had sustained second-degree burns on most of the skin that was facing the gate. The burned areas started to ooze a disgusting liquid that hardened into a crusty covering. He felt like an insect encased in an exoskeleton, until the crust started to peel off, revealing fresh pink skin underneath. Yarick could deal with the skin. After all, he had not been that good-looking to begin with, but the other injuries were a different matter. For one, his leg was fractured and it would be some time before he could walk. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was that he was half blind. There was just something missing from what his eyes told him. When Dmitri said that the damage from the pressure wave had rendered his left eye permanently blind, Yarick laughed. What's so funny, Yarick? Dmitri looked at him, his brow furrowed. This. Yarick smiled and pointed at his eye. All this. He gestured to the burned flesh on his arms and flung them outwards around the room. It just seems like a bad joke. I can imagine it now. One guy says to another, Hey, what's worse than a bastard whose mother was a whore? I don't know, says the other one. A one-eyed, one-legged bastard whose mother was a whore. Yarick trailed off. The punchline didn't even make sense. He hung his head. Get some rest, Yarick. You will need it. For what? Yarick looked up, but Dmitri was already gone. It was close to dawn by the time Yarick could finally walk. They gave him a cane to support the weight of his right leg, but told him to put as much weight on it as he could bear. Something about stimulating healing. He placed an eye patch over his left eye and took the first unassisted steps he had taken in a month. His leg screamed at him, but he grimaced and took another step. Another step towards the door and more pain. Yarick stumbled and clutched his crutch. He straightened out and made another step, then another. He stepped out of the door and admired how much light could change a place. Dawn was only a few moons away, and the sun was making its imminent arrival known. Yarick marveled at the stones of the castle wall on the other side of the yard, something he hadn't been able to see from where he was standing since the sun last set. He had never stopped to consider the significance of a sunrise or a sunset. After all, they happened every full day. But now, leaning on a cane and itching at a brand new eye patch, he could not deny there was some poetry to the timing of it all. He turned his head and surveyed the broken gate. The debris had been cleared in preparation for the builders, but the pre-dawn haze of light mingled with the moon's rays illuminated a charred section of grass. He hobbled closer and positioned himself where he had been standing. It was a miracle that he had survived, standing right here and reaching to touch Maria's shoulder. The thought struck him like a thunderbolt. How could he have forgotten? Had she been hurt too? Or could she be? No. Yorick had survived. That must mean she had as well. He needed to find Dmitri. He needed to... The moonlight flashed on an object in front of him. He bent down and picked it up. The silver strand was faintly visible between his finger and thumb. Yorick stared at it for a long time, recalling the memory of Maria's hair reflecting the moonlight that night, how it shone pale and pure upon her skin as they sparred. Then the explosion, the fire erupting so suddenly and so fast as he reached towards Maria to apologize. His fingers had brushed her hair just before the shockwave.